Ved Prakash, sir, I think we can start.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Anjuman-e-Islam, Kalsekar Technical Campus, I, Ved Prakash Marlapalle, welcome all faculties and participants for a webinar on 10 things no one will teach you about entrepreneurship. As a tradition of Anjuman-e-Islam, I request Dr. Firoz Khan sir to recite a few verses of Holy Quran.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Thank you, Ved Prakash, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I request you to please introduce the today's speaker.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. It is my honor to introduce today's speaker, that is Saurabh Sinha, sir. A serial social entrepreneur, Saurabh sir is passionate about rekindling the spirit of innovation in people to enable them to solve social challenges. Through Rein Labs, he and his team are focused on partnering individuals and organizations in their research, innovation and incubation. To foster an environment of innovation and research at an early age in children, they are partnering a network of colleges in Navi, Mumbai to run their incubation cell with a focused syllabus. They are deeply involved in helping potential entrepreneurs move their ideas to minimum viable product stage. Some of the sectors he and his team support are education, farming, IoT, dairy, fine arts and dairy fine arts of India. He is mentor at SIBA and has been on the national jury of NIC Yukti SIH for MSRD and as jury for MSINS Maharashtra Startup Week. In his work experience of over 18 years, spanning manufacturing and e-commerce, Saurabh set up the digital retail solution practice for Ugam and Datamatics. He has incubated some of the leading merchandising analytics platform, digital marketing tools and digital content solutions, and that have been used widely in the e-commerce industry in the US. He has worked closely with the merch ops, digital marketing and analytical teams of Target, eBay, Walmart, Staples, Sears, GAP, Williams Sonoma, Office Depot, Office Max, Costco and Home Depot to name a few. He started his career in electrical cable manufacturing and was part of Cable Corporation of India's new products team in launching house wire as a consumer product. He is involved in working on a number of social projects and takes deep interest in anything that can help build capability in people and society to self-drive change. Saurabh has a degree in electrical engineering from SPCE. With this brief introduction, I extend my warm welcome to Mr. Saurabh Sinha sir and request him to start with the session.
Okay. Firoz sir, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, thanks for the not so brief introduction. वो अपने पूरा resume पढ़ दिया मेरा. नौकरी वोकरी हो तो बताइएगा आप लोग. ठीक है. So we kind of go ahead forward with what's to be done for today. I just want to get one information piece right now. Is the majority of the folks in the session today students or they are teachers?
Majority of students, sir.
Are students. Okay, fair enough. Okay. And they are all members of IIC or they are just interested students in entrepreneurship? What should I consider?
Interested students.
Okay. So I guess I've got about 1.5 hours, probably about 1 hour 10 minutes or so I'll take in putting up the points that I have in mind. And what we can do is we can then go ahead and have some Q&A at the end of the session if the session permits. So let's go ahead and begin with a few slides. I had mentioned that the topic will be about 10 things that nobody will teach you around entrepreneurship. I've tried to cover more than that, but let's just try and go point-wise as things go forward. So I'll just share my deck. Just let me know if you can see the screen that I have on board. Is this visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So overall, you got an introduction around us. Rein Labs is basically working with a number of students and faculty as also startups in helping in variety of stages. Our larger focus is the pre-incubation space where we are trying to work with students in colleges and especially the IIC teams. We are building a product called Innovation Hub, which is basically a platform where all college projects can be brought together and they can be used for documentation within the college. It can help you share your project work with corporates outside and thereby create more opportunities of funding your startups or also job opportunities. So more on that as we go forward. So let's begin, and I think Firoz sir unfortunately had the misfortune of hearing a similar part, some parts of today's session few days back. So आप थोड़े बोर होंगे सर, लेकिन I'll kind of try to make it interesting. There was a question that I had asked that day to most of the folks, and you're all hearing about innovation, startups, entrepreneurship. दुनिया भर में क्या चल रहा है suddenly? Last 5-7 years, the government is also pushing this thing a lot. And since we are all engineering students, I thought we'll try and explain it by way of this equation. So if you look at this equation, question for all of you, open here. What do you think this equation really represents? Now, if anybody has the answer, can probably give it out. For those who probably don't have the answer, Google आपकी सहायता करेगा. Again, just let me spill the beans. This equation is actually the equation of what we all kind of get worried about sometime in March. Is what we call as the GDP equation. Okay. Now you may wonder, what has entrepreneurship and innovation got to do with the GDP? So let me tell you a small story. So almost about 250-300 years back, Western economies started to realize with the creation of America that we want to go ahead and rule the roost. We want to go ahead and create a world order which is going to be conducive to us. So they started to look at trying to do a variety of things. Colonialism was at its top. Countries were invading other countries. They had other countries under them. Britain and France were ruling the roost everywhere. And there was the advent of the Americas, and the United States of America had a dream. Why don't we go ahead and start to decide how the fate of the world will be, where we are going to lead things. It's almost about 300 to 350 years of investment which kind of led them to land up understanding a very clear thing, is that if I want to decide that I'm going to win a race, it is necessary that all the parameters of the race winning should be decided by me, which means that wherever you will go ahead and see in the world today, the Western economies decide what is right. They decide what is the marks for qualification. They decide what is the way in which you will measure the temperature. They will decide whether 100 degrees is fever or not fever. They will decide whether 100 of cholesterol is cholesterol or not cholesterol. They will decide if 140 of cholesterol of blood sugar post lunch is sugar or not sugar. This is for all those people who are suffering from blood sugar. They will decide if 5 feet is the right height or no. They will decide if ISI standards are right or wrong. And one of the things in the same pattern was something that we have all been introduced to and are living with, which is called as the world order of economy, called as GDP. Now, unfortunately, we can't change this today given where we are. But just then, we will start to dream as a nation that we want to create a system in the world where things are in order, pretty much like how things should be the Indian thought. We will have to stand up and start saying कि standards भी हमें उस हिसाब से बनाने पड़ेंगे. खैर जब तक ये बनते नहीं हैं, तब तक let us go ahead and understand हम किस system में रह रहे हैं. The system that we are living in is the system that we call the system of GDP. Now, what is GDP all about, and how is it connected to entrepreneurship and innovation? इस पर थोड़ा जरा समय देते हैं. See, GDP basically has got 5 factors in it. C for consumption, I for investment, G for government spending, X for exports, M for imports. Now, if you notice, there is something which is very key in all these ratios. First one being consumption. Any economy or any country is considered to be doing great if their GDP is high, which means by direct proportion their consumption should be high. यानी आप अगर एक चपाती की जगह 4 चपाती खाते हैं तो आपकी जीडीपी बढ़ रही है. आप एक गाड़ी की जगह 4 गाड़ियां रखते हैं तो आपकी जीडीपी बढ़ रही है. आप एक स्कूल की जगह 4 इंस्टीट्यूशंस चलाते हैं, आपकी जीडीपी बढ़ रही है. आप एक सेलफोन की जगह 2 सेलफोन रखते हैं एंड मल्टीपल कंजम्पशन करते हैं तो आपकी जीडीपी बढ़ रही है, विच मीन्स दैट द मोर यू कंज्यूम द बेटर इज योर इकोनॉमी. नाउ यू माइट वंडर, हाँ ये तो कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग चीज हो गई, यानी जो जितना खाएगा वो ज्यादा जीडीपी को कंट्रीब्यूट करेगा. द मोर यू ईट, द मोर यू कंज्यूम, यू आर गोइंग टू कंट्रीब्यूट टू अ हायर जीडीपी, which means that if you want to go ahead and make sure that your GDP is increasing, everybody must consume and dispose. Now, if you look at another one, what is it that you will consume? So it is very true if you look around each of us. Consumption is directly proportional to 3 factors: faster, cheaper, and better. Anything in the world which is either faster or cheaper or better, you will consume it more. Take the instance of cell phones today. Okay, we had iPhone which came in, then we had Samsung as a model which came in. When iPhone was there and there was no other cell phone in the market, it was better and faster than Nokia. People went after it. Then came a time when people realized that I have a Samsung equivalent, which is probably not better, but is definitely faster and cheaper. People started to go towards that. Look at taxi services. We were having the age-old Kala Pila taxi here. Suddenly people realized that Ola and Uber are faster and cheaper, so they went for that. They also found their air-conditioned taxis, so they went after it because it was better. You will realize that everywhere in the market, the only thing that gets consumed is faster, cheaper, better. Today, JioMart will come with certain options. You will go ahead and start buying it. Jio will come with a subscription plan which is cheaper. Everybody will start buying it. Consumption is directly proportional to these 2 of the 3 factors. So, अगर आपको consumption बढ़वाना है अपनी किसी चीज का, तो आप उसको faster, cheaper, better बनाइए, and you will find that this will happen. Now, let's look at X and M. Any country will go ahead and import from you or will import from India when you are faster, cheaper and better than them. Take for example electronics in the 1970s and 80s. India में electronics नहीं मिलता था, तो हम लोग मिडिल ईस्ट से इंपोर्ट करते थे. दुबई से, शारजा से, मिडिल ईस्ट से जो लोग जाते थे वो लोग इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स वहां से लेके आते थे. इंपोर्ट ड्यूटी भरते थे, लेकिन इट वॉज फास्टर, बेटर एंड चीपर. इन इंडिया इट वॉज वेरी एक्सपेंसिव बिकॉज कस्टम ड्यूटी बहुत हाई हुआ करती थी. So we found that people started to have their preference towards a faster, cheaper, better option. So you always will import something which is faster, cheaper, better than what you produce inside your country. सुनो, जितने भी हमारे घर के अंदर आपको ध्यान में होगा, कुछ लोग पुराने जमाने के यहाँ होंगे कि हम लोग पहले फोटोग्राफ्स लेते थे और फोटोग्राफ्स को अपने कैलेंडर एक किताब आती थी उसके अंदर इंसर्ट करके रखते थे. इसको बोलते हैं एल्बम. द लार्जेस्ट मैन्युफैक्चरर ऑफ एल्बम्स इन द वर्ल्ड इज चाइना. The largest manufacturer of Ganpatis in the world is China. The largest manufacturer of toothbrushes in the world is China. हर चीज में आप देखेंगे, they have gone ahead and become the manufacturing hub. How did they do it? Faster, cheaper, better. As a result, उनकी GDP कहाँ गई? ऊपर. Likewise आप देखेंगे, जब आप इस चीज को import करते हैं, you will import things which are faster, cheaper, better. आप export वही करेंगे जहां आप faster, cheaper, better हैं. आज की तारीख में Russian oil is cheaper and better compared to Middle East oil. We are importing it. आज की तारीख में Indian wheat is cheaper and better than Ukraine and Russia, so everybody is importing it. So what happens is that this entire equation of world economy has been focused on these 3 terms: faster, cheaper, better. Now, what is the meaning of faster, cheaper, better? And that's driven at the bottom. It is all about productivity. अगर आपको faster, cheaper, better बनना है, तो आपको आपकी productivity improve करनी पड़ेगी. और प्रोडक्टिविटी इंप्रूव करने का एक ही मात्र तरीका है, विच इज इनोवेशन. इफ वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू गो हेड एंड इनोवेट एंड क्रिएट द नेक्स्ट बेस्ट ऑप्शन फॉर कंज्यूमर्स आउटसाइड, वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी फास्टर, चीपर एंड बेटर. दिस पॉइंट अंडरस्टूड? सो इनोवेशन, रिसर्च एंड देयरफॉर कन्वर्टिंग इट इनटू अ बिजनेस, विच मींस कोई इनोवेटिव चीज बनाई और उसको हमने बाहर बेचा. जब आप फास्टर, चीपर, बेटर बनाने की कोशिश करेंगे किसी एग्जिस्टेंशियल चीज को या किसी नई चीज को, दैट्स व्हेन यू लैंड अप स्टार्टिंग टू इंक्रीज द जीडीपी, दैट्स व्हेन यू स्टार्ट टू कंट्रीब्यूट टुवर्ड्स द इकोनॉमी. नाउ दिस इज व्हाट वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, इज व्हाट इज ड्राइविंग फोर्स बिहाइंड ऑल दिस. दिस इज वन वेरी बिग रीजन व्हाई टुडे द एंटायर फोकस इज नॉट ऑन बीइंग पार्ट ऑफ अ कंपनी. It is being part of that part of the company which is driving innovation. Can you have a startup inside Mahindra? Can we have a new cell created inside Tata's which looks at new ventures? Can we create something within Reliance which can create new ventures? अब ये जग जाहिर बात है कि jobs are reducing. Okay. And why will jobs increase? When jobs cannot increase beyond a particular level. उसके ऊपर से हम सब लोग जो हैं, we have been born and brought up with the entire assumption that सरकार will provide jobs. Guru, Sarkar cannot provide jobs. No government in the world provides jobs. The governments in the world which provided jobs, they went down the drain. Classic example, Russia, a little bit of China. You must look at the Chinese history about 20 years before, when Mao Zedong was leading these guys. What happened to them? They went into socialism. Look at South American countries, Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, all have adopted communism and socialism. And what happened to them? There the whole objective was that the government will create jobs. Now all of us know that when government creates jobs, सरकारी महकमे में क्या होता है? ना फास्टर होता है, ना चीपर होता है, और ना बेटर होता है. आप कोई भी काम कराने चले जाइए. As a result, what happens? Private entrepreneurs start standing up, and private enterprise drives GDP. So let's understand that in the capitalistic world order, you are going to be driven by this number, and this is what will drive innovation. Therefore, innovation and entrepreneurship is something which is the only way in which the economy of this country can continue to grow. अब ये ऐसा नहीं है कि ये चीज हम लोग करते नहीं है, ये हम करते हैं, लेकिन इसके बारे में हम लोगों को रियलाइजेशन जरा कम है. So we'll come into those things a little more in detail. Let's look at one more alarming factor to understand why is entrepreneurship, startups, and innovation necessary today. So I'll just put up one thing here, then let's move it forward. Just pay attention to this slide. If you look at some surveys that were done after our economy kind of went global, we went ahead and did some surveys to find out what is driving growth in this country. The economists were pretty surprised to understand that the formal sector, which is these larger organizations which are there around us, they only produce about 2 to 3 crore jobs in this entire population of India. Whereas almost about 10 to 15 crore jobs are actually created by 5 crore forming, non-forming businesses in this country. Which means every small thela, every small kirani ki dukan, every small butcher, every small cobbler creates a job for almost about 3-4 people in his business. And the largest driving sector in India was this informal sector. आपको ये ध्यान में होगा थोड़े दिन पहले, about 5 to 7 years back, all the people who would get loans were people in the formal sector. For example, you landed up having the Vijay Mallya's of the world, the Tatas of the world, the Reliances of the world, the Nirav Modis of the world. I'm not categorizing all of them from the wrong practices that were there. I'm just telling you that the larger businesses were the ones who landed up getting the loans from the banking system. The result was a lot of NPAs. But there was a very large thing that was done about 7 years back when this new regime took over. And obviously, you don't have to give credit to a particular political ideology, but you have to give credit to the government that they came up with a scheme called as Mudra. Now, this might get presented differently, but Mudra was this one scheme where they said that any person who's running a small business, say he's trying to do a teaching business, he's trying to do a dabbe wala business, he's trying to have a hand cart, he has an auto rickshaw, he has a car, you will get loans in the range of 10,000, 50,000 to 5 lakh rupees to go ahead without any, only PAN card was required, without any kind of a backup. Because this sector which created the biggest jobs in the country was the one which was never getting funded. Now anyways, coming back to the point that larger employers do not create jobs beyond the point. There is a reason for it. Large employers, you will realize that they are also fighting the battle of faster, cheaper, better. So they bring in large-scale automation. When they bring large-scale automation, jobs get reduced. That's why large employers do own a lot of the GDP, but they do not go ahead and create that many jobs. Because automation is the expectation from them so that they can survive in business. इसका classic case हम लोगों ने Bombay में ही देखा था. Bombay में around 70 years back, there used to be a lot of mills. Okay, all of them used to produce great quality cloths. They all had handlooms. From handlooms, they had gone into large mills. But a time came when their cloths became more expensive than the rest of the world. And the entire mill industry in Bombay kind of fell apart. They couldn't make it faster, cheaper and better. They made better, but they couldn't make it faster and cheaper. And that is why the entire cloth industry from Bombay got wiped off. This entire cloth industry then gave rise to other industries, but you have to understand that such kind of large companies also could not go ahead and create that many jobs. Now let's come to the next one. All of us today are living at a time जहाँ पे हमारी उम्रें बढ़ रही हैं. Retirement age हम सब लोगों की वही 58, 55 है. हम में से कुछ लोगों की शायद 50 होगी. Because there is somebody who is standing in the queue who needs a job, who is more efficient than you, more skilled than you, and more energetic than you, who will work at half the salary of what you will work. आज एक 50 साल का इंसान जो एक्सपीरियंस लेके आता है, उसके मुकाबले a young energetic guy with half the salary will be any days more preferred. So the retirement age is kind of reducing. The number of people who are today unemployed at the age between 50 and 60 is highest ever that has been there in India. At the same time, life expectancy is increasing. 70 से 80 साल तक तो हम जी पाएंगे. Now the funny part is what? That we have all gone ahead and come into an age जहाँ पर about 70 years back, retirement age was 60. Public sector jobs होती थी, pension हुआ करती थी, and we were all dying at about 70. So you were literally getting an income till the time you were dying. But the way the world economy is moving today, mind you, it is the world economy, it is not us. That age has started to become 80 and retirement has started to become 50. Which means you, and there are no pensions. सही बात है, कहाँ से आएगी पेंशन? कोई भी दुनिया में नहीं देता है. हम ही एक अकेले हैं जो देता है पूरे देश दुनिया में. अब वो पेंशन्स खत्म हो रही हैं धीरे धीरे. So you are realizing that every single individual is now supposed to also plan for another 25 to 30 years post 50. और जिनकी शादियां हो चुकी हैं, and for by God's grace उनकी शादियां कुछ ऐसी has happened with where the spouse of yours is probably younger to you and will probably last longer. You have to make provisions for her also because she will be there after you also. So we have come to an age where today we are at a very interesting deficit that we will have two careers in our lives. One from the age of 20 to 50 and one from the age of 50 to 80. Because whatever we create from the age of 20 to 50 will not last long enough to last us from 50 to 80. यही कारण है कि टुडे पीपल आर लुकिंग फॉर वन शॉट में बहुत सारा पैसा बना लो जिससे कि इट कैन लास्ट फॉर लॉन्गर. But anyways, this kind of maverickism has been there all time in the ages and will be there even today. But for all of us who are sitting here, let us know where we stand. What we need to understand is that we have already entered a time where everyone will have to have two careers in life. And that's what points us towards the need of that you will have to have some sort of an entrepreneurial venture, be it a consultancy, be it a service company, be it a product company, be it some sort of playing in shares or whatever, or be a professional skill, you will have to have a small business to continue to fund yourself till the end of your life. I trust the point has been made that there are these 2-3 factors which are driving us towards the point that why is entrepreneurship required and why it's time to start thinking about this. All the governments, mind you, for the last 20 years have been trying to drive this point through, irrespective of ideology, because उनको economics में समझ में आ रहा है कि हो क्या रहा है. That is why a lot of push on entrepreneurship has been done by both governments, both the politically, ideologically different governments. But they all understand that economically we are moving towards a direction where we will have to encourage people for that. अब हमारे यहाँ दिक्कत क्या है? हमारे यहाँ दिक्कत यह है कि हमारे जो बच्चे हैं थोड़े बाल गोपाल होते हैं, उनका भैया बड़ा लालन पालन किया जाता है. They are not people who are emotionally as strong. So they are not ready for entrepreneurship. Anyways, let's come to this. They understand why it is required. Let's now ask the question, but am I even made for entrepreneurship? Because this is a very critical question that anybody will ask. हर आदमी को लगता है यार, can I be an entrepreneur? Can I be a startup person? Can I be someone who can create a company? तो थोड़ा सा जरा हम लोग तफ्तीश में देखते हैं कि भाई ये एक्चुअली है क्या और ये हम में है क्या. Let's see the following. Look at these photos. Most of us come from an engineering background. All of you who have been in different parts of the world, देख के आपके माइंड में एक स्माइल सा आएगा. ये देखो, ये अपने नॉर्थ इंडिया का कूलर है, सेंट्रल स्टेट्स का कूलर है. ट्राउजर को लगा के दो उसके लगा दिए, बेंट्स बना दिए. साउथ में आपको काफी बार दिखाई देगा, जा रहे हैं. अभी आई डोंट नो हु इज द वाइफ और बोथ आर द वाइफ्स और हु इज द मदर इन लॉ एंड हु इज द वाइफ. इररिस्पेक्टिव, इस बेचारे ने बड़ा अच्छा बैलेंसिंग एक्ट कर रखा है, एक अच्छी जुगाड़ लगा के. आई डोंट थिंक एनीबडी नीड्स एन इंट्रोडक्शन टू दिस. ओके, आज से 20 साल पुराने, 30 साल पुराने जनरेशन को ये चप्पलें समझ में आएंगी और आज की जनरेशन को ये बीच वाली चीज समझ में आएगी. बहरहाल वी आर समवेयर इन बिटवीन. यू कैन सी दिस. डू यू थिंक दिस इज डिफिकल्ट फॉर अस टू थिंक अबाउट? No, it's not. And because it is not difficult for us to think about things like that, you have to understand that the core point of innovation, ये तो हम सबके दिमाग में है. Let me tell you about 3 marvels of our past. ये जो मैंने डायग्राम आपको यहाँ दिखाया है, this diagram was made by a veterinarian surgeon who is known as the father of surgery in the world. His name is सुश्रुत. इनके नाम के बड़े सारे अस्पताल आपको दिखाई देंगे without knowing कि सुश्रुत नाम क्यों रखा गया है. आचार्य सुश्रुत in his सुश्रुत संहिता goes ahead and presents 54 to 64 diagrams, which are of various tools which he was using for doing plastic surgery and surgery on animals and human beings. Most of these tools, yantras, were yantras which were designed on the shapes of certain organisms. It is not difficult to look at these photos and understand that most of these tools are today used in surgery, in contemporary surgery today. So almost about 3,000 to 5,000 years back, we were using these surgical tools to do surgery. Let's look at this. जो यहाँ महाराष्ट्र से हैं, आपने सैराट पिक्चर देखी होगी, लेकिन उसमें रियलाइज नहीं किया होगा कि उसके अंदर का इंजीनियरिंग मार्वल क्या है. Yes, there was a harmonical marvel that was going on between the hero and heroine, but they were stepping into a well, and the well was a stepped well. Now think about it this way. Do you think this can be done without any knowledge of engineering, without any knowledge? For sure, this was made by somebody who didn't have a certificate in engineering. But isn't this common sense, and somebody can think about it? Yes. जो लोग यहाँ पर हैं जिन्होंने जैनिज्म को थोड़ा सा क्लोजली देखा होगा, आप अगर कुछ जैन टेम्पल्स में जाएं, स्पेशली माउंट आबू और इन सब एरियाज में, तो यू विल रियलाइज कि देयर आर लॉट ऑफ पिलर्स इन दीज स्ट्रक्चर्स. और ये कुछ मंदिर ऐसे हैं जहां पर ये पिलर के नीचे देखो टॉवेल घुमा रहे हैं. अब ऊपर से आ रहा है पिलर, लेकिन नीचे से घूम रही है टॉवेल, which means this pillar is actually not touching the earth. What is the reason behind it? So when you ask these people, they will tell you, sir, ये जो मंदिर हमने बनाया है, इस स्ट्रक्चर के बहुत सारे पिलर्स हैं, लेकिन हम जहां पे ये मंदिर बनाया है, ये अर्थक्वेक प्रोन जगह है. तो जब अर्थक्वेक आता है और कोई एक पिलर टूटता है, this pillar, which has a clearance between the ground and the surface, comes to rest and holds the structure on. This is a hanging pillar. थोड़ा सोचें, do you think you couldn't have thought of this? अपने यहाँ की काफी सारी किताबें हैं. अभी अनफॉर्चुनेट हमारी दिक्कत ये है कि हम लोगों ने ज्ञान को भी जो है ना वो रिलीजियस लेंस से देखना शुरू कर दिया है. ये हमारी बेवकूफी है, इसको बोल सकते हैं. लेकिन नो हाउ एंड नॉलेज हैज नो रिलीजन. आवर पास्ट ग्रेटनेस ऑफ इंडिया इज व्हाट? It's 10 to 20,000 years of continual living and learning. But if you land up making a person make biryani for 20 years, he will innovate like nobody else. He will land up creating the best possible flavors. हमारे का खाना देख लीजिए आप. Pretty much the same way, if geometry and algebra and mathematics and structures and architecture and surgery and medicine are going to be there in a civilization which lasts for 10,000 years, do you think innovation will not happen? Absolutely, it will happen. And therefore, this innovation, in our case, has also been there in measurements. हमारे यहाँ जो measurements हैं, वो degrees को 10 raised to minus 64 के level तक लेके गए. These are examples of some of them. सूर्य सिद्धांत करके एक किताब है, जिस किताब के अंदर देह भास्कराचार्य has gone ahead and given what is the time it takes for the sun rays to come to India, to the earth. This is us Indians. ये हमारा अस्तित्व है, ये हमारी नॉलेज है. प्लैनेटरी मोशन, ऑल ऑफ अस हैव हर्ड नाउअडेज. हमारे जमाने में तो इसको मार्क्स भी नहीं दिए जाते, बट आर्यभट्ट हैज गॉन अहेड एंड गिवन आउट द एग्जैक्ट डिस्टेंसेस एंड प्लैनेटरी टाइम्स रिक्वायर्ड फॉर रेवोल्यूशन इन द सोलर सिस्टम. You think it is not possible? None of these things are coming from people who are engineering graduates. They are all coming from people who are just doing that work for a longer amount of time and realizing that there is a jugaad or innovation possible. चलो छोड़ो आर्यभट्ट, छोड़ो भास्कराचार्य. Let's come to today's times. Let's take the example of Mr. Abdul Razak, 2009. Okay, look at the diagram that you are seeing here or the photograph. अब्दुल रजाक ने ये एक बढ़िया सी एक कढ़ाई बनाई. इस कढ़ाई के अंदर आधे में लिड लगा हुआ है, आधे में लिड नहीं लगा हुआ है. Do you know what is done over here? एक ही बर्नर के ऊपर आधी कढ़ाई के अंदर फ्राई करके सब्जी बनती है, आधी कढ़ाई के अंदर प्रेशर प्रिंसिपल पे खाना बनाया जाता है. What is the reason he created this? The reason is कि उनके घर में सिंगल चूल्हा है, जबकि हमारे यहाँ डबल गैस मिलती है. And this product is selling. Abdul Razak is not an engineer, certified engineer. Sorry. Look at what Arvind Bhai Patel creates. How many times in our families we've had people coming to our houses holding big bhagonas and big canisters of food and running around with their backs bended. स्पेशली टू हेल्प द विमेन folk. ये एक सिंपल प्रेशर प्रिंसिपल से कढ़ाई और उनको उठाने का एक तरीका बनाया गया. Let's look at this Mansubhai Prajapati, very popular example from Gujarat. घड़े के प्रिंसिपल को इस्तेमाल करके मिट्टी कूल रेफ्रिजरेटर बनाते हैं. They all know that in India, culturally, we do not keep food in the fridge for a long time. We make the food in the morning and it is considered a healthy practice to finish it off by evening or by the next day at maximum. He said, when you only require to store things for only 1 day or 2 days, why don't I create at 4,000, 5,000 rupees a refrigerator on the principle of a ghada? And he goes ahead and creates multi-cooled refrigerator, hot selling product, 4,000 to 5,000 rupees की pricing है, and he kind of gives it to all the people in the villages. Look at what this girl Chaube, Nisha Chaube builds. How many of us have gone to railway stations trying to make sure our relatives are sent off? So many times we go there, we don't find a chair. वैसे तो हमने सूटकेस में व्हील भी नहीं लगाया था, लेकिन सूटकेस में व्हील के अलावा अगर हम एक छोटा सा स्टैंड लगा दें, does it make it easier for people to sit with the luggage? And कितना अच्छा प्रिंसिपल है. The heavier the luggage, the more stable the seat is. You can sit keeping your backrest on the luggage. A lot of us ask, am I made for innovation? Am I made for entrepreneurship? Look at this example. There is a contest which happens in this entire country every year. Here are ideas given by children from high school. Plucker for leaves, a reversible chair in the garden, a common meter and purifier of water in the common water supply rather than having different purifiers in every house, a eraser for Xerox paper. You have water drums, so they have made a slightly tilted surface at the bottom of the water drum so that वहां पे मिट्टी इकट्ठा ना हो, मिट्टी अपने आप निकल के आ जाए. A dustbin which can kill flies, a animal lifting van, और एक छाते को इन्वर्ट करके फैन जैसी चीजों को झाड़ के बिना डस्ट आपकी आंख में गिराए हुए बनाया एक छोटा सा यंत्र. दिस इज जस्ट एन इमेजिनेशन. डू यू थिंक इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल फॉर यू टू डू दिस? If you think further, you will realize, yes, it's very much possible. Entrepreneurship and innovation has always been in our DNA. There are two very popular stories. When Vasco da Gama lands up coming to South Africa, he actually is noted to have met a Gujarati businessman who had ships which were much larger than what Vasco da Gama had bought from Portugal. It is he who actually landed up taking Vasco da Gama to Goa. And he was already doing trading with countries in South Africa. There was a survey that was done. And in that survey, they went ahead and found out, and I think it's a very popular number that everybody tells nowadays, that in 1750 tak, from 1 century AD to 1750, India's share of the global GDP was in the range of 23 to 25%. When the British came, they looted us so much that we were brought down to less than 1%. So when they left in 1947, we were down to about 1%. Lots of things have been done to tell us that entrepreneurship, innovation were there. So when India was that Tathakathit Sone ki Chidiya, this was happening. Our current people can also think about it. So for all of you who feel कि यार ये मैं startup नहीं कर सकता हूँ, entrepreneurship नहीं कर सकता हूँ, folks, here are examples of everyday life. You can think. Your ancestors have done it. आज से 200 years back or 100 years back, what was your father doing? Was he even part of some? Was he part of the government? Was he part of some public sector? Was he part of a government job? Not necessary. At max, he would have been part of the armed forces of the Raja, or he or she may have been someone who was running a small business. They were doing farming, they were doing dairy farming, they were doing variety of things. And it's only in the last 70 years that we have got so focused on getting a secured future via a job that we have stopped thinking and feeling that we can become entrepreneurs. Folks, entrepreneurship is very much in our DNA. And that's why we just need to rethink a little. If you can innovate, you can be an entrepreneur. चलो आ जाते हैं नेक्स्ट वाली चीज के ऊपर, which is, if you look at this photo, you will realize half the world, and I don't know how many women are in the lecture today, is already entrepreneurial. थोड़ा सोचिए आप. If we look at carefully, what is it that our wives do? All of those who are married over here and are sitting here. Okay? उन बेचारियों को जो है वो बता दिया जाता है कि भाई अब आगे से ये आपके खज़म है, अब इनके साथ आपको निभाना है. ठीक है? You have no choice in deciding वो कौन है. चलो भाई, सपोज आपके पास चॉइस भी है डिसाइडिंग कि भाई वो कौन है. तो इट्स ऑलमोस्ट लाइक ए स्टॉक Okay, you have been handed over one stock or a company. अब इस कंपनी के सहारे या इस स्टॉक के सहारे आपको जो है अपने पूरा ये काल निकालना. एंड व्हाट इज ग्रेट अबाउट द विमेन फोक, न केवल दे गो हेड एंड निभाओ इट वेल, but for the next 40 years they make sure that this stock performs well, this company performs well, this person goes ahead and gets the earning that is required to run me, you, the entire family. और अगर आप थोड़ा क्या बोलते हैं एक अलग तरह की मान्यता में चले जाएंगे तो हमारे यहाँ ये तो 7 जन्मों का रिश्ता होता है, तो वो जिंदगी के साथ भी है और जिंदगी के बाद भी है. So the investment in the stock has been done for the next 7 years or 7 जन्मस. Point to be said is that there is that the women folk are already entrepreneurial. With zero resources, they produce a family, they make the person work and make sure that he or she brings the livelihood, and they ensure that life ends with retirement business. What better example do you want of entrepreneurship around you? Your mothers, your sisters, your wives are probably the best entrepreneurs. Zero resource, and you have 30 to 40 years of continued learning and earning. Point to be said is that entrepreneurship is very much there in our DNA. So for those who feel कि मैं कुछ कर नहीं सकता हूँ, मैं एक एंटरप्रेन्योर नहीं बन सकता हूँ, मैं एक स्टार्टअप नहीं कर सकता हूँ, या तो आपको स्टार्टअप की डेफिनेशन थोड़ी ठीक करनी पड़ेगी. स्टार्टअप का ये मतलब नहीं कि आपको फ्लिपकार्ट खोलना है, पेटीएम खोलना है, you have to go ahead and create a Myntra, you have to create Ajio, you have to go ahead and create Ola. No. Even a small business venture is a good enough startup. In today's time, some people may say कि भाई from a definition of startup, it should be something which has accelerated growth. वो time आएगा. लेकिन for you to run your own life, you need to understand that you are good enough with having a startup जो आराम से चल रहा है. So let's get this point right in our minds that we have entered a zone where 2 careers will be required. We will in all probability land up ending our lives with 2 careers. But at the same time, this spirit of entrepreneurship has always been in our forefathers, our ancestors. It is there in us also. It's just that we have got too used to the fact कि हमें एक secured income की एक secured job मिल जाएगी और उससे हम जो है अपना रास्ता निकाल लेंगे. That's not going to happen. Economically, in the system that we are living, this is going to become exceedingly unviable. So it's best that we start preparing for it today. I'll move on to the next slide just to tell you. Okay, so that say I have it in me. Say I understand that this is important and we need to do it. How is it that I will make it happen? What? Now, when you look at entrepreneurship, there are a few things to keep in mind. First and foremost is, folks, entrepreneurship is not so much about idea as much as it is about execution. Some of you will remember, before Facebook came to the world, there was something known as Orkut that was there. Many of us must have become members in Orkut. Before Google came into the world and started dominating the space of search engines, there used to be Bing, Ask Jeeves, Yahoo, many such companies who were doing search engines. One very nice thing from Steve Jobs is that ideas are worth nothing unless they are executed well. It is execution which makes the difference. See, when you, in entrepreneurship, it is not so much about, मेरे को एक आइडिया आया है बहुत अच्छा है. काफी बार होता है, you will look back and you will say, यार I got an idea. मेरे को ये आइडिया पहले आया था. But problem is कि वो आइडिया आपको पहले आया था. ये आइडिया आज कोई और लेके आगे निकल गया है. You will see over here this logo. This is a logo of a company known as Netscape. When internet came to the world, the first browser in the world was created by Netscape. Can you imagine? Browser is the treasure of all data. It's the treasure of all information of transactions happening in the world. If I am the browser, I can literally know what every person is doing. And Netscape was in that business. But they just kind of lost out to Google in the way they executed. And today probably Google may lose out to somebody else. But the point is, business is all about making it happen day on, day after day for a continuous period of time. It is not about having a wave of an idea. So lesson number 1, it's all about execution, not about idea. Let's understand the next part. If we look carefully at how work is done, getting people to work with you and getting an organization to deliver the way you want it to be requires a lot of emotional intelligence. It's not enough to just know an idea. It's not enough to just know how to execute. It's very necessary that if you want to execute to perfection, you should be emotionally intelligent. Not intelligent alone, not emotional alone. क्या मतलब है emotional intelligence का? So you will realize when you are as a head of the family, आपको सबकी सुननी पड़ती है. Suppose you are part of a society committee, you have to hear everybody. You have to give them a patient ear, understanding. You are part of an organization. You have to listen to your seniors. You have to listen to your juniors. You are part of a cricket team. You have to work along the way in which the rest of the team works. This is emotional intelligence. Being able to understand your customer, being able to empathize with your employees and vendors, being able to create a connect between people is one of the most critical skills that is required when you are trying to run an organization. और ये आप घर में करते हैं क्योंकि आपकी घर और क्या है, आपका घर एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ही है. So the real advantage that an entrepreneur has is actually that of whether he or she can emotionally, intelligently manage situations and people around. और इसीलिए one thing which you will realize, आप जब interviews के लिए जाएंगे as students, most of your college people who will come and ask you interviews will ask you, have you been part of a cricket team? Have you been part of a sports team? Have you gone ahead and organized an event? Have you gone ahead and done some business? Have you gone ahead and worked in a team, maybe in a sport or, in a Ganpati Mandal or in whatever capacity whatsoever? Why? They ask you this question because they will then realize, or they realize through that, if this person understands how to make other people work or work with other people. Are you part of a joint family? All these things help you become emotionally intelligent. You realize when to get emotive. You realize how to get emotive, when to get aggressive, when not, what to tolerate, what to say. So like execution was key, the other key thing is emotional intelligence. And that's why if you are going ahead and trying to create an entrepreneurial environment inside your college, or you want to train yourself to be an entrepreneur, start training yourself to becoming part of teams. Start training yourself to organize things with the help of teams. हमारा जो पूरा एजुकेशन सिस्टम है ना, वो जब किसी को फर्स्ट आ गया है बच्चे को बताता है, वहीं से कुछ गड़बड़ शुरू हो जाती है. इट्स नॉट अबाउट कमिंग फर्स्ट अलोन, इट्स अबाउट कमिंग फर्स्ट इन अ टीम. इफ यू स्टार्ट टू नो हाउ यू कैन मेक ए टीम रीच अ गोल, that's when you learn your very first lessons in how to manage an entrepreneurship, how to manage organizations, how to manage your company. So keep this thing in mind, that emotional intelligence is much more important than IQ. Next insight. A lot of us, when we will start talking about entrepreneurship, we will start to, be told, Arey, how will your venture scale up? How will you go pan-India? How will you go international? अब जैसे हमारे टाइम में एक कुछ सालों पहले तक एक OLX करके आया था, आपको याद होगा, राइट? अब OLX जो था वो इंटरनेशनल चला गया. फिर ओला था, ओला इंटरनेशनल जा रहा है. ओयो है, ओयो इंटरनेशनल जा रहा है. Folks, let's understand. There are two types of startups. One, where the idea is basic enough that it can reach the world and make money. Second, where it is good enough that it can actually create a great business in a very, very local level. And India is one such country where you must understand that small is huge. See this map which I have shown you. Every single state has a GDP equivalent to the GDP of one country or two countries put together. In India, if you are a brand or a company which is selling great in only Konkan, mind you, only Konkan, Thane, Navi, Mumbai and Raigad. You forget Ratnagiri also. Or you take Goa. You are bigger than the national player of at least 56 countries put together. India is a continent, it is not a country. Okay, ये 30 countries हैं. इनको किस तरह से जोड़ के रखना है अपने आप में एक मुश्किल. In this country of countries, in this continent, every single region is as big as another country. Look at these examples I have given you of small Gujarati brands which are today pan-India and global brands. Have More, Sun Pharma, Rasna, Amul, Ajanta, Godrej, Reliance. I mean, these are all only from Gujarat. Mind you, there will be more from Maharashtra, from Kerala, from various places. And they have not focused on trying to go to India. They have just focused on first trying to be the biggest in their own region. So whenever you are thinking entrepreneurship, please don't do the mistake of trying to think, India में कैसे पहुंचूंगा, मैं दूसरी states में कैसे जाऊंगा, मैं abroad कैसे export करूंगा. You don't need to do that for the simple reason that जिस कस्टमर को आपने देखा नहीं है, जिस ज्योग्राफी में आप रहे नहीं हो, उस ज्योग्राफी के लिए कोई चीजें बनाओगे तो उसके कंजम्पशन आपको पैटर्न को आप समझ नहीं पाओगे. And by God's grace, we are in such a country where a small region, even Thane, in itself has a dynamic of its own, and Thana ke andar bhi, with a population of 25 lakhs, if you are able to go ahead and become a company which can sell to those 25 lakh people, you are as big as a national brand of some other country. So the idea of scale will have to be recalibrated when you think startups. Very small regions have very large markets. आजकल आप देख रहे होंगे मुथूट फाइनेंस और पता नहीं क्या क्या आ गए गोल्ड के लिए. Have you seen the number of South Indian gold companies that have come from Kerala? Now somebody is guiding them or misguiding them to go pan India. But do you know the kind of weight that they have got in a place like Kerala or Tamil Nadu? These guys are all over the place there. They are state level brands, and every state is like a country. So let's get this point right, is that you never should look at trying to go pan India, pan world, pan region. Focus on trying to create your business in that small region and for the delicacies of that region, because that region ka people you will understand much better than you, because you finally sell to a consumer and you can only craft your solution when you know that customer. आज यहाँ बैठ के आप राजस्थान का कस्टमर क्या सोचता है नहीं समझ पाएंगे. जैसे all of us are here from Maharashtra. Tell me one thing. Suppose somebody from Punjab comes and tries to sell in Maharashtra. Do you think that the person from Konkan, from Vidarbha, from Pune, from Nasik has the same taste? No. For that matter, a person in Raigad will have a very different taste from a person in Goa, although they all come under Konkan. So what you will realize is that regionally we are so widespread and deep that every single area has a different taste, has a different way of looking at life, has a different way of managing things. So when you create a solution, the solution has to be very, very connected to the end consumer. So small or rather deep and localized is the big thing of India. So never worry about trying to. If you are a vada pav wala who goes ahead and is able to sell vada pav in Thana and has 7 branches, look at Vijay Sales, look at Kohinoor Electronics. There are several examples, Shiv Vada Pav. You will see several examples of companies which are only known in that state or that region. Mamledar's Misal Pav. Take the greatest example, Natural Ice Cream. ये बॉम्बे के बाहर नहीं है ये लोग और जाना भी नहीं चाहते. So if everybody can have a vada pav wala or a pan wala who can make enough of money, there is enough possible in your small region itself. Don't try and get hallucinated by trying to go pan country. Yeah, if you want to, nobody is stopping you. But वो game अलग है. Coming to the connected point, वो game अलग क्यों है? Now most of us का problem ये है कि हम लोग जो है economics के basics को नहीं समझते. I was lecturing at EDI, Entrepreneurship Development Institution of Ahmedabad. It is the premier institution for entrepreneurs in India. Okay? मजे की बात क्या है? Entrepreneurs के सब्जेक्ट को पिछले 30 साल से सिखाया जा रहा है. कौन सी स्टेट में? गुजरात में. Entrepreneurship Development की इंस्टीट्यूट बनाने का ख्याल गुजरातियों को ही आया. ये बाकी देश में किसी को नहीं आया. Now let's look at things forward. So we had an IAS officer who had come and he was saying कि भैया कितना अच्छा वैल्यूएशन मिल रहा है, यूनिकॉर्न्स बन रहे हैं, डेकाकॉर्न्स बन रहे हैं, people are having a valuation of 1 billion. Folks, being part of this industry, having done multiple startups, having raised more than $10 million across venture funding through multiple companies, sold off more than $50 million worth of companies, I can tell you with a lot of confidence on this point that one, we don't understand the hidden economics behind venture capitalism. Second, venture capitalists are probably today the people who are doing the biggest disservice to the entire entrepreneurship ecosystem of this world, of this country. And there's a reason behind it. See, you need to understand a few things. Okay? Most of the companies that are there funded by venture capitalists, who are called as unicorns, decacorns, who are they? If you actually look into their balance sheet, you will find that they don't really make profits. Flipkart, Myntra, Ola, Oyo, Paytm, Nykaa. You name the company and you will figure out that they have got valuation money. They do not have real income. और उसका classic example क्या है? कि when they get listed on the stock exchange, when reality touches the turf, the stock value falls. See, all of these venture capitalists, basically, you need to understand, come and get money from the United States and from the Western countries. Now, why do they get this money and why is this money coming to India? उसका बड़ा सिंपल सा रीजन है. सिंपल रीजन ये है कि अगर आप उठा के देखें कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका और ब्रिटेन में इस समय इंटरेस्ट रेट क्या है बैंक में, तो आपको ध्यान में आएगा कि वहां का इंटरेस्ट रेट 2%, 1% या 3% है. और इंडिया में क्या है इंटरेस्ट रेट? प्राइवेटली आप बाहर जाएंगे तो 7.5 से 8% मिलेगा. Now, if I just had an FD, a fixed deposit of 1 crore rupees, and I put it in a bank in UK, I will get how much? 2%. But if I took the same 1 crore and invested it in India, how much will I get? 7%. That is 3 times the money. This is the primary reason why that money is coming to India. It's not that our policies have become friendly to them. It's very simple, is that we are performing better than them. आज से 10 साल पहले चाइना was performing better, तो पैसा वहां जा रहा था. आज हम परफॉर्म बेटर कर रहे हैं. दुनिया की बेस्ट इकोनॉमी है इस समय बाय ऑल टर्म्स. आप कहीं से भी उठा के देख लीजिए, इंडियाज इकोनॉमी इज डूइंग द बेस्ट इन द वर्ल्ड टुडे. Obviously that money will come here. See, they have got it right. They have understood. हमें पैसा बढ़ाना है तो ऐसी इकोनॉमी में डालना पड़ेगा जहां पैसा बढ़ेगा. So they bring it to India. Now what you don't understand is what you need to pay attention to. All these venture capitalists go ahead and talk about something, that is, how will you scale your venture? How will you take it national? How will you take it international? How will you make it 500 times? How will you make it 400 times? I mean, the irony is, थोड़े दिन पहले एक प्रोग्राम आ रहा था टेलीविजन पे, उसका नाम था शार्क टैंक. तो कॉपी पेस्ट प्रोग्राम है और फिरंगी प्रोग्राम का. अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली इट इज द फ्लैगशिप प्रोग्राम ऑफ इनोवेशन, और हमारी विडंबना ये है कि वो भी कॉपी पेस्टेड प्रोग्राम है. मतलब हम, I don't know what to say about it, but when we are creating a program which encourages innovation and entrepreneurship, we only could get a copy pasted model. We could not go ahead and create our own program. Here anyways, the irony remains the irony, but look at what they invested. The investment is for how can you go ahead and make it 4 times, 10 times, 5 times. They say, I'm not interested in your business if it is linear and grows only by 15%, 30%, 80% a day. Why? Because when $1 billion comes into India, the expectation of the UK and the US investor behind it is कि $1 billion को $1.1 billion एक साल में बनाना है. 3 साल में उसको $1.3 billion बनाना है. यानी $300 million ऐड करना है. ये $300 million आएगा कहाँ से? So if you are going to go ahead and expect 10% increase in India, and you know that out of 10, probably only one startup will succeed. So on every startup, what is the pressure you will put? Suppose you distribute 1 billion to 100 startups. What are you going to tell every startup? Because you want to make 300 million at the end of the year. It's but natural that you are going to go ahead and tell them 100 में से शायद एक ही succeed होगा. तो आप हर एक को बोलेंगे कि भैया आप लोग 300 million बनाइए. यानी 30% नहीं, 300% growth दिखाइए. So the point is that when the venture capital fund comes into your business, they expect outlandish growth, and that outlandish growth makes you do wrong things. It makes you take decisions which are wrong. It pressurizes you. It's an irony in all the venture capitalists that you will see and all the entrepreneurs who are there today. They all say that after the 4th or 5th round, we are left with not more than 8 to 10% equity. Which means all of these startups, and look at them, most of the startups don't have the startup founders anymore in the company. Those startup founders are gone. They have been removed. Only some are there who are sticking it out. The point is that you have a unnecessary pressure which comes when you raise funding. I know today you had a session on how to raise funding and things like that. Sagar से बात करूंगा तो मेरे को उल्टा बुलाएगा. Again, the point is that you have to understand that funding is best attained when funding runs after you, not when you run after funding. तो अपने बिजनेस को जब आप सोचें तो इस बात को गांठ बांध के रखें. It takes time. It will take you easily about 8 to 10 years to build a business. And you should seek funding when your business starts giving you returns on its own. छोटा ही सही. Until then, there are several other ways to raise funds within family from here and there. But do only a small business based on what you have as capability to start with. Entrepreneurship never dies. The venture may die. You will need 2 to 3 ventures before you create the most successful venture of your life. An actor also does at least 10 to 15 movies before he does the best performance of his life. So you will have to work across small ventures. थोड़ा बहुत प्रॉफिट बनाना पड़ेगा, कहीं लॉस होगा, बट उतना ही करो जो आप हैंडल कर सकते हो. एंड देन कम टू अ पॉइंट जहां पे आप इतना प्रॉफिट बनाना शुरू करें कि यू देन रिक्वायर फंड्स. वो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी देख के बैंक आपके पीछे आएगा. ये वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट वाला जो मेथडोलॉजी है, ये एक अलग गेम है. ये कुछ ही आइडियाज के लिए एप्लीकेबल होता है जिन आइडियाज के अंदर स्केल अप पॉसिबल है. एंड दैट्स व्हाई डिस्टिंग्विश इन योर माइंड. Our job here is to create an entrepreneurship environment in colleges and students. First, we need to train our students to learn to be small entrepreneurs. Then we can go ahead and become the big entrepreneurs. And if some of them are talented, they should definitely try it. But if you start to only focus on big entrepreneurs, the success rate will be so low that you will get to a point where people will fear getting into entrepreneurship. And that's why I say that venture capitalists who are pushing you towards the scale do the biggest disservice to entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is not about having the biggest startup in the world. The Indian culture has always been about तुम भी थोड़ा खाओ, मैं भी थोड़ा खाऊं, हम सब खुश रहें. Look at the Western economy. Western economy के अंदर अगर आप जाएंगे, थोड़ी देर सोचिए, हम सारे लोग जो हैं वो उस तरह इस्तेमाल करते हैं, लड़के, right? We use a shaving blade. मुझे एक और कंपनी का नाम बताओ जो कि शेविंग ब्लेड बनाती है जिलेट के अलावा. आपको नहीं मिलेगा, बड़ी मुश्किल से याद आएगा. चलो मेरे को आप ये नाम बताइए किसी एक और कंपनी का. ओके, मैं 4 कंपनी 5 कंपनी छोड़ देते हैं. ओके, मुझे बर्गर की 5वीं कंपनी बताइए इस दुनिया में कौन सी है विच मेक्स बर्गर्स. आपको नहीं मिलेगी. गिव मी अ रिटेलर other than probably the 20th retailer in the world who is as big as Walmart. You will never find one. See, the American system and the Western system of economy is a very monopolistic system. Monopolistic system का मतलब क्या है कि ऊपर जगह सिर्फ 3-4 लोगों के लिए है, उसके बाद बहुत बड़ा सा एक गैप है और फिर छुट-पुट प्लेयर्स. ये मोनोपोलिस्टिक सिस्टम जो होता है, ये क्या करता है, ये इकोनॉमी में एक दूसरे को कॉम्प्लीमेंट करके सिर्फ 2 या 3 लोग ही ऊपर जाके बैठ जाते हैं. जबकि इंडियन सिस्टम आप देखिए, हर गली में आपको वड़ा पाव वाला मिलेगा, हर गली में रिटेलर मिलेगा, हर गली में पनवाड़ा मिलेगा, हर गली में धोबी मिलेगा, हर गली के अंदर वॉशिंग वाला मिलेगा. दिस इज नॉट हाउ इट इज अब्रॉड. अब्रॉड देयर आर ओनली 5 to 10 retailers who are the big ones. So they consolidate the industry. Every place where you will find it. P&G, HLL, finish. बाकी कौन है नहीं दिखाई देगा. मैकडोनल्ड्स, बर्गर किंग, और कौन है नहीं दिखाई देगा. पिज्जा हट, डोमिनोज, पिज्जा एक्सप्रेस, उसके आगे कोई नहीं दिखाई देगा. दिस इज हाउ दे आर बिल्ट. एंड एवरीवन्स मनी गोज इनटू द टॉप कंपनीज. इसलिए वहां की टॉप कंपनी टूट के गिरती नहीं है. हमारे यहाँ क्या है, अपने यहाँ ये है भाई तू भी खा मैं भी खाता हूँ, सब लोग खुश रहते हैं. अब वी आर कल्चरली वेरी डिफरेंट है इन द ईस्ट. एंड दैट इज व्हाई यू विल अंडरस्टैंड दैट यहाँ मोनोपोलिज्म आने की वजह से दे एक्सपेक्ट यू टू स्केल अप. उनकी एक स्टारबक्स है कॉफी, हमारे हर गली में एक कॉफी वाला है. तो दिस डिफरेंस इन आउटलुक एंड बिजनेस मीन्स वी आर मोर अडेप्ट. इफ वी स्टार्ट डूइंग व्हाट दे आर डूइंग, वी विल नॉट सक्सीड इन दैट गेम, वी विल गेट एक्वायर्ड. सो इस पॉइंट को जरा थोड़ा सा आप लोग ध्यान में रखें, जरा आगे चलें. टू अंडरस्टैंड आप जहां रहते हैं वहां के हिसाब से बिजनेस करना है. जब आप वहां जाएंगे तो वहां का करिए. चलो लेट्स कम टू अनदर एग्जांपल. Like I said, the VC money is kind of looking at trying to increase its returns because of the way in which the investment is coming. So they put unnecessary pressure on you. उससे बच के रहना. जब सही समय आएगा तब लेना. Another concept. A lot of us don't understand that in a country like ours where interest rates are high, it is not about having a product startup. You may be smarter in having a services startup. अब इस बात को जरा थोड़ा तफ्तीश में समझते हैं. There was this product called SAP. You know who's made more money using SAP? It is Infosys, Accenture, Cognizant, Capgemini, Wipro and Tata Consultancy Services. They have made more money selling SAP and servicing SAP than SAP as a whole. What is the reason? The reason is that they understood very well कि भाई SAP का product तो लोग ले लेंगे लेकिन SAP को implement कौन करेगा, चलाएगा कौन, maintain कौन करेगा. These services companies, which are the top IT companies of our country, are the ones who have gone ahead and institutionalized this practice. Their total valuation on SAP business is bigger than the valuation of SAP itself. See, in a country like ours where interest rates are so high, you will have to understand that when interest rate is high, cash flow becomes very important. If you do a service business, जैसे suppose you have got a hair dryer, suppose you have got a farming equipment and you want to sell it. In India, because the interest rate is very high, it is much better to go ahead and sell it like a service. अब इसके एडवांटेज आप समझिए. अगर आपको जो है आपने फार्मिंग इक्विपमेंट बनाया है तो आपको अगर 10,000 फार्मर्स को बेचना है तो आपको 10,000 प्रोडक्ट्स बनाने पड़ेंगे. 10,000 के लिए कैपिटल अपफ्रंट डालना पड़ेगा. प्रोडक्ट खराब भी हो सकता है, पता भी नहीं है. अब इसको उल्टा करते हैं. लेट्स से यू हैव गॉट ए प्रोडक्ट, आप 10 प्रोडक्ट बना लीजिए और आप हर एक को जो सर्विस चाहिए वो प्रोडक्ट ले जाके दीजिए. जैसे आपको फार्मिंग में कटिंग करनी है, आपने कटिंग इक्विपमेंट बनाया है, आप जाके कट करके आइए. इसका फायदा है क्या? शुरुआती दौर में प्रोडक्ट में क्या खराबी है आपको पता चलेगी क्योंकि आप यूज कर रहे हैं. भाई कस्टमर को तो फाइनली कट करके चाहिए, तो यू आर गिविंग द एंड गोल टू द कस्टमर. You will start to improvise your product. Second, customer will not take your product and reject it or return it. He will keep giving you feedback all the time on how it can be made better because he is already getting his end goal. Whereas if you made a product, there is a chance it will work, it may not work. If your product is not selling, the pressure on you is going to be to reduce its price to sell. Now, if you are selling the product as a service, what happens? Every time you are giving service with the cutter, you can go ahead and do it piece by piece. 100 रुपए की अगर कटर आपने बनाया हुआ है तो आप एक दिन किसी के घर गए काटने के लिए कुछ चीजों को, तो उसके खेत में आपने कटाई की, आपने 10 रुपीज चार्ज कर लिए. दूसरे खेत में गए 10 रुपए चार्ज कर लिए, फिर 10 चार्ज कर लिए. आपको 10 से 50 कस्टमर तो वैसे ही मिल जाएंगे. 11वें कस्टमर में स्टार्ट मेकिंग अ प्रॉफिट मार्जिन. So you have to understand that in economies like India, where services, where interest rates are high, it is always better to go ahead and go after a services model to begin with. इसीलिए हमारे यहाँ कोई भी प्रोडक्ट आप ले लीजिए वो फाइनली एज अ सर्विस ही बिकता है. क्लासिक केस, टेक कार्स. मोस्ट पीपल इन द कंट्री यूज टैक्सीज. दे डोंट यूज कार्स ओन्ड बाय देम. दे ओनली यूज कार्स ओन्ड बाय देम फॉर सर्टेन टाइम्स. In India and our kind of economies, आप देखेंगे, टेक द केस ऑफ हेयर कटर्स. इतना बड़ा कोविड का केस आया, सब लोगों को बाल कटने की जरूरत पड़ी, हर आदमी को जो था कटर लेना पड़ा था किसी ना किसी पॉइंट पे, फिर भी नाई की दुकानें बंद नहीं हुई. वो जरा सा एक वैल्यू एडिशन देता है, ही इज एबल टू गेट इट. टेक टेलर्स. रेडीमेड क्लोथ्स हैव कम एंड गॉन बट टेलर्स कंटिन्यू टू स्टे. यस, इट इज गेटिंग डिफिकल्ट फॉर देम, बट सर्विस is a very good sure shot way of ensuring that you are able to go. Take coffee machines. हर घर के अंदर चाय और कॉफी बनती है लेकिन कोई कॉफी मशीन खरीदता नहीं. This is something that you should understand about India and our economy and accordingly think about your startup. This will reduce your risk of startup and it will reduce your capital requirement of startups. Next point. A lot of people ask, भाई सर ये entrepreneurship में पहले नौकरी करनी चाहिए या entrepreneurship start कर देनी चाहिए? My answer is a simple way. Okay, we are all in India. हमें बहुत प्यार पाला जाता है, बहुत प्यार से. पेरेंट्स शिद्दत से कोशिश करते हैं कि हमारे बच्चों पे कोई जो है आंच ना आए, दिक्कत ना आए. एज ए रिजल्ट हमारे यहाँ जो होता है वो बच्चे इमोशनली इंटेलिजेंट नहीं होते हैं बहुत जल्दी. अगर आप फिरंगी देशों में जाएं तो वहाँ 13-14 साल में बोल दिया जाता है, गुरु अब निकलो यहाँ से. ओके, बिकॉज यू एक्चुअली डू नॉट नो कि बाबा माई फादर एंड मदर विल रिमेन हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ और नो. Second, after a few days, if you go back, your father may be with another wife and a wife may be with another husband. So you really don't have anything known as social strata. And because of that, everybody has to become independent. Most children fund their own education. In India, पिताजी लोन लेके एजुकेशन फंड करते हैं, बेटा कुछ पढ़ लिख जाओ, कुछ बन जाओ. Now, as a result, a lot of the emotional intelligence is not there in our children. And that is why my recommendation to you is that it is always better to start with a job for a few years, but, and I'm saying a very strong but, job should be only to get domain expertise across all departments of a company. You should but go ahead and start your idea of your startup now. Go for working, but entrepreneurship should start right away. Because it takes about 7 to 8 years to build a business. सीखते जाइए, काम करते जाइए. Next one. Lot of us ask innovation किस चीज का करते हैं. अब जैसे आप अपने कॉलेज के प्रोजेक्ट्स देखिए. कॉलेज के प्रोजेक्ट्स आपके जो होते हैं उसमें आर्डिनो चिप लगा देते हैं. हम लोग बोलते हैं बड़ा अच्छा इनोवेशन हो गया. सिंपल सी चीजें बनाते हैं. आज भी हम डैम बनाते हैं, रोड के क्रॉसिंग बनाते हैं, उसमें एक आर्डिनो चिप लगा देते हैं. बोलते हैं जब लोग आएंगे, ट्रैफिक बढ़ेगा तो सिग्नल की वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी, कम हो जाएगी. गाड़ियां जब रास्ते पे चलेंगी तो एनर्जी आएगी, एनर्जी से विंडमिल चलेगी, विंडमिल से सिग्नल चलेगा. आई मीन हम बाबा आजम के जमाने की चीजों की बातें करते हैं. एंड वी फील कि हमने बड़ा अच्छा प्रोजेक्ट बनाया. हम एक लेंस लगाएंगे, उस लेंस से लगा के हम लीफ को देखेंगे, लीफ के ऊपर क्या बीमारी होंगी वो डिटेक्ट करेंगे. उनको पूछो आप क्या यूज करेंगे, सर हम ओपन सीवी इस्तेमाल करेंगे, टेंसर फ्लो इस्तेमाल करेंगे. अरे बाबा, टेंसर फ्लो से आप इंटेलिजेंट नहीं होते हैं. टेंसर फ्लो इस्तेमाल करने से गूगल इंटेलिजेंट होता है. ओपन सीवी इस्तेमाल करने से ओपन सीवी इस्तेमाल होता है. आपने क्या टेक्नोलॉजी बनाई है? See, we are not in the business of thinking कि भाई when we are trying to create a startup, always think about the future. 10 साल आगे क्या होगा उसके लिए स्टार्टअप या उसके लिए प्रोडक्ट या सर्विस तैयार कीजिए. तो या अभी के 10 साल में जब आप बना के उसको आगे लाएंगे तो वो मार्केट में रिसेंट और रेलेवेंट होगी. जब आईपैड बनाया गया था तब स्टीव जॉब्स ने बेट किया था, तब नोकिया का फोन भी नहीं था, कि फोन सबके पास होगा, हार्डवेयर की कॉस्ट कम हो जाएंगी. He had betted that internet will be available with everybody and hardware छोटा हो जाएगा. And then he created the design of what needed to be created. So please understand, if you are trying to go ahead and do a startup, trying to go ahead and create an innovation, do it with 10 years hence from now, not what is today. बहुत सारे लोग कहते हैं IoT का मैंने डिवाइस बनाया. अरे IoT आ गया, IoT is already there. 3 साल बाद IoT के डिवाइसेस आपके इमेजिनेशन के बहुत आगे निकल चुके होंगे. इसलिए अब IoT नहीं, नेक्स्ट IoT के बारे में सोचिए. और आपके पास उतनी एनर्जी है, आप अगर सोचेंगे तो आपको आइडिया मिल जाएगा. इट्स नॉट टू डिफिकल्ट. One reference, there was a session that we have done called 100 project ideas. If you go to the YouTube channel of Rein Labs, we have analyzed 20 different sectors and given 5 to 7 ideas in every sector. Look at it, you will get lots of ideas of what you can do. Last point. When should I start? Like I said, this is the time to start. Because one of the key things that have been given to you is the college project. अगर आप एक college project बनाते हैं जो कि आपके प्रोडक्ट का या आपके ऑफरिंग का प्रोटोटाइप होता है, या आप कॉलेज के टाइम में ही एक छोटा सा बिजनेस स्टार्ट करते हैं, दैट इज द राइट टाइम टू गो अहेड एंड गेट योर स्टार्टअप स्टार्टेड. You can take 3-4 years. You will find enough of your colleagues who are there who can help you. And the best part about it is that this is a time. Everyone says ना फंडिंग कहाँ से आएगी? यार फंडिंग तो कोई नहीं देगा, बड़ी मुश्किल से मिलने वाली है. लेकिन जब फंडिंग आती है तब आप क्या कर रहे होते हो? The 4 years of engineering is a time where you have funding available. आपको ध्यान में नहीं है. भाई फंडिंग का क्या करता है एक आदमी? जब फंडिंग आती है तो आप खाते हो, खरीदते हो, खर्च करते हो. In the 4 years of your engineering, at the rate of 2.5 to 3 lakh rupees is spent by every parent on you, no questions asked. Think about it. Aren't you actually sitting on 12 lakhs worth of funding for 4 years in engineering? आपको क्या पढ़ना है? थोड़ा बहुत पढ़ना है, पास तो हो जाएंगे आप. एंड आपके जैसे 3-4 और लोग बैठे हैं. Literally every single 4 years, 48 lakh worth of funding gets destroyed by our students. अगर 4 स्टूडेंट्स मिल जाएं तो आपके पास 48 lakhs की फंडिंग है. आपका खाना पीना देखा हुआ है, आपका घर देखा हुआ है, आपको कोई परवाह करने की जरूरत नहीं है. एग्जाम में पास होना है और 2-2, 4-4 घंटे अवेलेबल है जिसमें आप आराम से अपनी तफतीश से अपना प्रोडक्ट या अपनी ऑफरिंग बना सकते हैं. The problem is colleges are not telling the children this thing and children are not understanding this. So if you think around this, I have a feeling that you'll probably be able to start better and do better. Lastly, as educationists, how can we help? Since there are teachers here. This is the last thing that I would like to tell you. We have seen this movie multiple times. ये ऊपर के एनवायरनमेंट की जगह अगर आप ये नीचे का एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट करेंगे तो ट्रस्ट मी ये एंटरप्रेन्योर ही आपको आपका फ्यूचर दिलवाएगा. डोंट डू इट लाइक ए ड्यूटी. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड इसमें आप ही का इंटरेस्ट है. Exceedingly, new education policy and higher education is focusing on making sure that only those teachers will sustain who are doing better quality research work. As teachers, you are gifted. You have time. You have access to free labor in the form of these students. You can actually do a lot of consultancy for industry. And mind you, industry needs solutions which you can give. Because you are cheaper compared to the talented, A-graded talent which is lying outside. जो वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल्स हैं किसी भी इंडस्ट्री के, वो अभी भी किसी कंपनी में काम कर रहे हैं, उनके पास टाइम नहीं है. आपके पास टाइम भी है, रिसोर्स भी है, और अब तो सरकार डंडा भी मार रही है. सो प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस टीम अगर बिकम्स द टीम एट द बॉटम एंड यू आर लीडिंग इट, आपकी कंसल्टेंसी निकल पड़ेगी. आप इस समय जहां रह रहे हैं वो दुनिया की प्रॉब्ली एशिया की सेकंड लार्जेस्ट MIDC कहलाया करती थी एक जमाने में. देयर आर इनफ ऑफ कंपनीज आउट ओवर हियर हु रिक्वायर स्मॉल स्मार्ट सॉल्यूशंस. And in a lab, you have enough available to go ahead and give those solutions. But because you are not giving relevant projects to your children, and teachers are today just tick marking, कि यार करना है करा दो project, we are not able to utilize it for your own good. The future is very clear. It is of those teachers who do good quality projects while they are in academics. So I'll end with this. There has been one model teacher in this country who has changed the future of this country. There have been many, but you can take from this. शिक्षक साधारण नहीं होता है. You are sitting on immense potential. You can use it well. I think it can really convert the way the institution works. IIC is helping you with a mandate. इसका भरसक लाभ उठाएं और आगे बढ़ें. These were the things that I just wanted to share with all of you. It's open for questions if you guys have got it. Firoz sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful session. Now, platform is open for the question and answer. So, those are having any question, they can put in the chat box, or they can unmute themselves and ask the question. Yes, participant.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm leaving behind my number and email ID. All those who want to chat in person can probably do the same. If there's any project on which you are looking for any sort of guidance, you are looking at any startup form guidance, always reach out to us and we can probably be more than happy to help you on this. Okay, so Sohail is asking, is Reliance using a monopolistic approach? Maybe. See, they know the world order very well. Yes, absolutely, they will be using that approach. But you have to understand that you're not going to achieve anything by going ahead and finding fault with them. Okay. They are living the world order. We have to find our way of how we can create our businesses, right? Yeah.
Good evening, Saurabh sir. I would just like to say I'm Professor Vaishnav Pawar,
Yes,
and it was a really interesting session right from the start till end, and definitely the students will be getting more motivated to hand up and some more entrepreneurs with their activity.
Sure.
And it's a really excellent session. Thanks for this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I guess, sir, we can probably have any Q&A if at all. I think it always takes time for folks to go ahead and think through it. As and when required, you can reach out on the email ID as also on the number. And if there's any way in which we can be of help to the institution, please let us know. We are in Mahape here, working with most of the colleges around. So if there's anything that we can do with you, please let us know about this. Okay, someone from the Pharma Academy with startup is better for nation as an Sorry, I couldn't understand the question. You're saying, what do you mean by which startup is better? Couldn't understand.
I think he is asking about whether to do the business or do the entrepreneurship.
No, through both things. I mean, it helps the nation in both the ways. When you go a business or entrepreneurship, same thing actually. When you go after those scaled up startups, it also helps, but after a while, it should lead to continual value. It shouldn't land up being a flash in the pan for some time and then kind of disappearing off. You see some of the current ones, the ones who got listed in the market, their value fell to half. That's not right. So it's always better to go ahead and have something sustainable. हमारा deep rooted culture है, उसके हिसाब से चलें तो it is best. And for us right now, we cannot all take a leap into the unknown world in a very big way. So there are constraints. So it's always best to start small and then start to build out. Everybody can have a scaled up startup in your lifetime. You may want to start up with something basic. But everything helps, absolutely. Anything with large value helps.
Yes, participants, any more questions? I have put the feedback form in chat box. Please give your feedback. Now it is over to Prakash sir.
Thank you, sir. I would like to express my vote of thanks to the speaker for enlightening us with his expert's views and opinion. Sir has rightly pointed out some of important key points about entrepreneurship. Sir, we thank you for making this webinar interesting and fruitful. I also wish to express my gratitude to President Dr. Zahir Kazi sir, the management team, Chairman sir, and Director sir for providing encouragement, support and guidance for conducting such an event. I also thank to IIC convener Dr. Firoz Khan sir, IQSC coordinator Dr. Mujib Tamboli sir. Last but not the least, thank you all the participants for your time and patience. Thank you, sir. Shall I end this session, sir? Firoz, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all.